You are listening to Productivity Straight Talk with your host, Amber De La Garza. Amber is a sought-after productivity coach, trainer, speaker, and writer who gives entrepreneurs the straight talk on personal productivity. No BS fluff or overused jargon. Just actionable strategies to get results and succeed in business. And here is your host, Amber De La Garza, the Productivity Specialist.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to Productivity Straight Talk. Today is episode 217, The Sky's the Limit, an entrepreneurial case study with Michael Costantino. If you're a business owner who wants to improve your time management and elevate your productivity so you can maximize profits, reduce stress, and make time for what matters most, you're in the right place, and I'm so glad you've joined me. I am really looking forward to bringing this episode to you because, as you may know, the entrepreneurial case studies are some of my favorite types of episodes. It's where we get to meet other fellow business owners, go deep into their business model. What are their challenges? How have they overcome them? And today's episode is no different. I'm also looking forward to introducing one of my clients, Michael Costantino. Michael and I are going to chat today about all things business, but also pulling back the curtains on what his experience has been like working with me privately via coaching. I think that there's going to be a lot of takeaways, a lot of ahas, and most importantly, serious inspiration of what's possible when you decide what it is that you want and you go after it. You ask for support, you get the accountability, you build the team that can come around you and truly empower you to crush your goals. All right, more about that in a little bit, but let's meet Michael. Michael is the owner, president, and principal architect for Montebello Architecture and Design. He has worked in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex in his field for 18 years. As a licensed architect, he has the ability to work on and design a variety of projects. However, his main focus is residential architecture. Since starting Montebello in 2018, his team has experienced significant growth, going from an office of 1 to a team of 7 full-time and contract members. While based in the DFW Metroplex, Montebello currently has projects all over the state of Texas, as well as Missouri, Colorado, and California. When not busy designing his client's next dream project, Michael is enjoying time at home with his wife and 2 daughters. And now, let's meet our guest and get to the straight talk. Hey, Michael. Welcome to Productivity Straight Talk. How are you doing today?
Good, Amber. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on here and doing this entrepreneurial case study. These are some of my favorite types of podcast episodes where we, get to dive deep into someone's business and learn from their lessons and their journey. We just heard your official bio, but why don't you share a little bit about yourself personally before we dive into your business?
I am a dad of 2 little girls that keep me on my toes. My wife and I have been married for almost 8 years. We live in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex area and born and raised in Texas, but now doing projects all over the country. So it's been a very interesting ride.
Yeah. So we're going to dive into that ride because I have just so enjoyed working with you. So I guess if I didn't say this in the intro, I should say that Michael is a client of mine and we've been coaching together for a little over a year. And his journey is so amazing. I'm just so proud of him. And I really wanted to highlight him on the podcast. And there's a lot of lessons in here. And I think we're going to just kind of pull that all back today so that people can just see what the journey is of, not just your journey of entrepreneurship, but maybe even the journey of being coached and what that experience has been like for you. So,
sounds great.
Okay, so let's just dive in. So we were doing this right before I hit record is we were going back and looking at, how did you actually find me? So let's do the timeline of when did you start your business and how did you stumble upon me or the work that I do?
So I started the business in 2018 and it was just myself, and I had 2 partners that helped me with the legal stuff and actually getting the business registered with the state and things like that. When I was in college, I took architecture courses and did not do any business classes other than those that were required. So I didn't know what I was doing. So when I started, I was looking online. I had about an hour drive to work every day. So I started searching for podcasts. And yours was not the first one I came upon for productivity, but as we discussed, it was the last one I got on. So, I'd found a couple that didn't really interest me. And then I hooked on yours because it seemed like every episode was something that was pretty much directly applicable to the situation that I was going through and the steps as the company grew and my experience within the business world changed. That was in 2018 when I found your podcast. I listened to you for about a year before 2019. I did kind of a mini session with you. I think it was the Time Management Made Simple course to kind of get my feet wet with the personal coaching. It was also a kind of a financial thing at that time, as I couldn't really afford to do the full-on coaching with you. And so this was a great way for me to see, do I see value in the personal coaching? And I absolutely did. This coincided with me hiring my first employee. There were a lot of bumps in the road that I needed help overcoming. And so, through that course and questions to you and your input and feedback helped me, grow that employee into now my right-hand person that, I will do anything to keep. So from there, it was the company kind of, we kept growing rapidly. And then in the fall of last year, I guess end of summer, August of 2020 is when we began the one-on-one coaching. And since that point in my business, it's kind of exponentially taken off. And so I, attribute that to the lessons that I've learned with you, being able to just bounce ideas off of you, you looking at it from an outside perspective and really getting involved and feeling like you are an extension of my business as, a team member trying to help push the business forward. And so in May of 2021, so May of this year, we ended up hiring another 2 to 3 people. And so from the time I started, when it was just me, I now have a team of 4 full-time employees and multiple contract draftsmen and renderers and things like that to help keep the business moving forward.
Yes. Okay. So thank you so much for sharing all that. So we're going to just kind of pull that back. So I'm just going to recap for our listeners. He started his business in 2018. Then he got his first employee, felt like he was stumbling on like, oh my gosh, I'm a business owner. Oh my gosh, I'm like leading this person. Like, what does this look like? Navigated through that and to leap forward to say he's built an incredible business and a pretty large team in a short amount of time. And here's where we want to pull this back. Tremendous growth, personal and professional growth of like how you're showing up as a leader and how you're handling challenges. So let's just dive into some of those. One of the biggest things I remember is when we started working we started working in August of 2020 and you set your goals for 2021. And when you set your goals, you were pretty optimistic in where you were going to go. And then what happened to those goals by Q1?
By about midway through February, we had surpassed all of our set goals for 2021. So
for the entire year, let's just hear that. Like when we reviewed your goals for 2020, we were like, yeah, that's a solid plan based on what last year looked like. And that it was a stretch goal. And then I literally blinked my eyes and you came to a session and said, yeah, so actually we've surpassed the goals for the whole year. And that's when we really ramped up. Okay, what is possible? What is this going to actually be created? Meaning, what could you create in 2020 and now we're well into 2021, right? Actually, no, all of 2021. I'm getting my years mixed up. So many years. Okay.
Yes.
So we're still in it and we're looking at now what 2022 looks like because you've had to keep up leveling your goals. So you have something else to run towards as your team has grown and your business has grown in 2021.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things the value with working with you was at the beginning of 2021, when we did see that we had surpassed our goals, you were able to kind of remove yourself and look at it from a kind of force me to look at it from a bigger picture of, okay, you've already done this. Let's see, where do you want to go the rest of the year so that we can start planning ahead. At that point in time, we were using a task management system that was already on the verge of breaking, and with all these new projects, would have definitely broken. So you, with the help of you kind of looking at some options, switch that task management system at the right time so that we were able to keep up with the growth. And we were able to get a bunch of templates and SOPs and things like that in place prior to hiring new people, to try and minimize the hiccups when those people did come on. Not going to say that all the hiccups went away, but it definitely would have been worse had we not taken the time at the beginning of 2021 to plan for that growth that we saw was definitely coming.
Yeah. So let's just get really specific. You were using Trello. Trello breaks after we add about one person. So that's where you were at. And we knew that was not going to get you. It got you to where you were at, but it was not going to get you to where you were going. So when we explored options, we landed on ClickUp for you.
Yes.
And you built out ClickUp to support your entire design process and how all of your projects go through different phases, and now through different employees, because projects are getting pushed around depending on who needs to be touching each project. And ClickUp has been able to do that for you.
Exactly. Yeah, we're able to break it down, as far. In fact, we've now added an additional layer of subtasks just to be able to assign, literally one piece of a project to somebody, but keep the whole parent task under the project manager so that they can keep a pulse on where that project is in the process. So we made the transition to ClickUp. Honestly, we probably made the transition of probably about 2 to 3 weeks too late. By the time we hired new people and things like that, it seems like we were just like right there, still learning a little bit ourselves, but it was great because the whole team kind of learned it together, and we found the points that we needed to fix as a team, running ideas by you as far as, hey, we want to do this. How do we get there? We did, find that one of my assistant was really, really good at ClickUp, enjoys the thought process. So she's, gone in full force with figuring out, okay, how can we make this, I call it dummy proofing our process so that it's, we hire somebody and they can literally go checklist by checklist and, work through projects, which has helped us with the scaling aspect of things as we've, added additional draftsmen to keep up with the projects and things like that, that it's allowed that growth to be a little bit easier than it would have been without kind of that process in place.
Absolutely. All right. So you worked on processes, you worked on a project/task management system. Let's shift gears and talk about some of the challenges and breakthroughs you had with going from leading yourself to leading your team. And so I'm just going to throw that off to you. As you reflect back, what were some of the challenges that you're most proud of like, we figured it out. Like I figured out, not me, you, Michael figured out how to lead his team, which for those of you that are listening, this is a huge shift. I mean, think about if you're just responsible for yourself and your own time and how you show up and you're running this business, shifting to a team of 4+ contractors means all of those people need training. All of those people need clear direction and communication. All of those people need to have a touch point with you on a very regular basis. So with that transition, what would you say were some of the challenges that we've worked through?
So one of the biggest challenges I've always wanted that open line of communication. I think that's crucial with any business, transparency, and that sort of thing. With that comes the challenge of too much and, being available at all times of the day and, not being able to get that focused design time, because it is something, when I'm designing a project, any little buzz or beep or click or whatever will distract me from what I'm doing, and it takes me a while to get back into that. So one of the things that we worked on was the time blocking of the calendars, which really helped me. In fact, our next session, coaching session, we're going to work on doing that for the team members to kind of give them a template of, as we've grown from 3 clients to 12 plus clients, that they're able to manage their time and their projects efficiently so that the ball is moving for everybody at the same, pace. One of the other challenges was on the design side, any artist, any designer, things like that. These are all very personal projects. You pour your design heart and soul into these things, and it's very hard to let those go. Like, you don't want to pass it off to somebody. And so one of the hardest things, and still working through this, is trying to find what pieces I can pass off to other people so that it frees me up to do other projects, and looking at my time completely differently than I had previously, where it's like, okay, well, that may only take me 20 minutes, but it would take them 2 to 3 hours. So I'll just do it. But that 20 minutes that I get back can go towards something else. So really looking at time completely different from on the business side, but also the personal side, to try and find that balance across the board.
Yeah. So the balance of building your team and your business growing, one thing I know that we just held strong on was the other hats that you wear. You're a husband and you're a dad, and you happen to love the work you do. So that could bleed into our personal lives, our weekends and our nights. And that's been a big goal of yours, is to just keep holding the line. And while there are seasons where that may be necessary, because we like to be totally transparent, it's always been, okay, I'm choosing this for a short period of time, or to get us out of maybe a turnover on the team where it needed to happen. But really holding that bigger vision for you was my goal, of saying, you can grow your team, you can, quadruple your goals in 2021 and still have nights and weekends, and not letting that be the norm for you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was a challenge because, so as the team grew, I was having to adjust how I worked on things, because as the team multiplied, that was multiplying the amount of plans I had to review and all of that sort of thing, while reducing the time that I had to work on the projects that I needed to. And so that did start to spill into my nights. And there were weekends where I was, having to work. And, last year during the pandemic, pre-pandemic, I was studying for my licensing exams. And so my wife, extremely supportive, and, I would have full weekends where I was away studying to try and get these things done. And, that was tough, because it's, our girls are both under 7, and, they're full-time, very active, very, full of energy little beings. And so, even though I know she doesn't mind doing it, I don't want to have her where, okay, well, now the business has grown, and so now I'm working all weekend, plus I'm missing out on time with my girls. And so we have a great support system. And I think that was a big lesson too, was accepting help from, outside people. Both of our parents live within 20 minutes of where we are. So it's nice because there is that help there for either picking up the girls, or, them taking them for a little bit, or just, helping with anything. And for me, I've always been the one that likes to help other people, but has a hard time kind of accepting the help. And so that was a big mental shift of, making sure to utilize all of the assets that we have, not just looking at it from a business standpoint of, I don't have that resource to help with this, but if you find it for some other part of your life, it can actually help the business side of things.
Yeah. We had a lot of conversations about just leaning into, and what does that look like for you being okay asking for help and accepting help. And that's what you're sharing is on the personal side, but also in the business. Just because we hire doesn't mean we, instantly are okay saying, I need this and I need this and I need you to help with this. Like, that's a whole growth journey, is to articulate clearly what we need and then accept that help when we're so used to doing it on our own or by ourselves.
Exactly. And that, something very recent kind of thing that we've been working with is, with the team growing, there's obviously occasional setbacks on hires. It was not, the right fit for our team. And so other team members had to absorb some of those positions back. And, I didn't really want to put certain, what I would consider minor tasks on somebody else, because I felt that that wasn't really what they could be doing so much more, but that's the position they were in. And so I had to really kind of get that mental shift of, okay, this is the position they're in. This is what I need from them to fulfill this position. It's okay to put this on them. So that is kind of was a hard thing for me to do, because it's, again, that asking for help, but then also knowing that, okay, in order for this business to grow and for everybody to be successful, I need help with that area.
Yeah. So Michael, I do see this a lot, right? Is that we want to be that buffer for the team. And that's what you were doing. You're like, I'll work the extra. I'll take on some of the smaller tasks. I don't want to burn anybody out. I don't want to overwork them. And I see this so frequently that we treat ourselves. So you were treating yourself differently than you treat your team member. So protect them at all costs. Don't stress them out. Don't overwork them. Mm-hmm. So you're going to absorb it. And my advice there always is, of course, we want to worry about the team. But what I find is that that happens based on assumptions. And so what I asked you to do is have an honest conversation with your team members to say, don't worry about it. When you need to say it, this is too much or enough is enough, please tell me. And until then, I'm going to freely give you the work that needs to be done in the business. Mm-hmm. And I think that's worked out well for you, and not just defaulting to I'll keep it in case they're overwhelmed, that you're open to listening to when and if they get overwhelmed.
Yeah. And one of the biggest things I realized was me keeping it actually put us at a disadvantage, because I had all these projects that I was pushing as far as I could. And then they all got to a point that I had to have their help. And now they got dumped with 10 projects that they didn't know were coming. I mean, they knew they were coming, but they didn't know exactly what place they were in our process. And so it's a little bit of a catch up on their part, because I was trying to quote unquote protect them, which really probably did the opposite. So it's that whole learning curve of, it's a trust thing as well. Mm-hmm. Everything, no matter how much of the process I hand off, everything will always start and end with me that comes in and out of the business. So every design process, the initial sketches will come from me, and I will look at everything one final time before it goes out the door. So there's that big piece in the middle that me trusting my teammates to be able to accomplish has been a big step for me as well. But I've found that I have the right people in place, because when you don't, and there's a lack of trust, that's, I now know for future, is a big red flag that, okay, this probably isn't the right person for the position.
Right. And one of the symptoms, before we actually say the words, I don't trust this employee, meaning that they're going to do a great job, the symptom that I see often is we start creeping back the work to ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. And we do it kind of subconsciously. And when I would check in with you on coaching sessions, I'm like, why are you doing that? And mm-hmm. it's just, I just need it to be done right. I'm like, okay, let's explore that. Why do you have that thought on that employee versus other employees? And that is a great example of when we're in it, we're just go, right? We're going to solve the problems. We're going to do the thing. And then this thing happens where you show up to a coaching session and we freeze time. And I invite you to look at your business from a different perspective, question what decisions you're making or not making. And then in that one question to you, it's like, oh, why am I pulling back the work? Okay, mm-hmm. That's where the actual solution needs to be had, is down the line of why did you feel like you needed to pull that work back?
Yeah, exactly. And, part of that also comes from evaluating, because we would discuss what their hours looked like, how much time were they spending on certain tasks and things like that. And so once I finally had them like tracking very specifically, it was like, okay, well, why isn't this getting done faster? Why aren't, you able to take on more work, things like that. But also in that audit of their time, realized that there were things that we were doing that weren't really pointing us towards our end goal, more like it was busy work, so to speak, but the numbers weren't there to support the amount of time that it was taking to do those. So we had a conversation with our client and said, this isn't really something that we feel we can continue doing. They were happy to take it back on. So it freed up time from employee to do other stuff that's more profitable. And, the client, I think, is ultimately happier because they're more in control of that little piece of things. And so it wasn't anything that was detrimental to our process or our design process or anything like that. So it was a very good step that just kind of took that, taking a step back and like, what would Amber do? and, and looking at it from that side across the board. So it's always a good feeling when I come to those realizations on my own, and you're very good at pointing them out, because we are in the weeds and we don't see the progress and things like that we're making. And you'll just, in our sessions be like, hold on, let's just pause and look at this. And this was a big step. This was a big thing that you did here. And so that reassurance is also, very beneficial from the working relationship is, I think, really just your outside perspective on things to say, okay, we're going to look at this without emotion, so to speak, and down to the nitty gritty of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's one of my tricks in my toolbox, is that I really like to look for positive proof. So when my clients are moving through decision making, or they're asking the questions I would ask in a session, and I hear that you did that between sessions, I'm like, look what you're doing, because my goal is to transfer that skill set to my clients. And when I can point it out and we pause, and it's not just like you roll with it and it just, doesn't get acknowledged, is that next time a challenge comes up, you'll remember, oh my gosh, I solved this other thing in a similar way, or I moved through this decision-making similar in a different way. Those are all tools in our toolbox as a business owner that will, support your success for many, many years to come, way after we're done working together. And that's really always my goal, is that the work and the breakthroughs don't just happen during our coaching sessions, that I leave with you those skills, the thinking, the questioning, that will serve you well beyond coaching.
I think that was very evident, over the past couple months, when your unexpected leave of absence to take care of yourself and all of that, is it wasn't a panic moment for me, like, oh my God, I don't have Amber to bounce this off of, or what is this? It was, okay, let's put our minor, freak out aside and get to the tools that you've given us and work through the problem. And that I think for me was one of the bigger breakthroughs as well, was you kind of helping me point out at what my system is for, if I get overwhelmed, how to recognize that sooner, get out of that rut so that I can, move on and be productive. So definitely the tools that you give us do apply, not just in our sessions. So.
Okay. I was going to go in a different direction, but we got to dig into that really quick. I love this. When you feel overwhelmed, I helped you with the tools of identifying it and getting it out faster. The fact that you can even say that, I want the listeners of Productivity Straight Talk to hear, that means he's not in overwhelm all the time. And so if you're currently feeling overwhelmed over time, it is absolutely possible to not feel that way in your business. And when you do, like Michael said, is that it doesn't get normalized. It's like, oh, that I think of it as it's a symptom. It's something telling us that something needs to be worked out or dealt with or hit head on, so that overwhelm goes away. And, sometimes it's a decision that needs to be made in the business that we don't want to make. It feels overwhelming. Sometimes it's a workflow where we've overcommitted. Sometimes it's you just started bleeding your boundaries and you started working later or earlier or on weekends, and you don't really realize it because it happens slowly until instantly it's like, oh, I'm overwhelmed. And whenever you can identify what got you there, will be the solution that will get you out of it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, this is so good. Okay. had to happen for you to see yourself differently than a very talented and skilled architect? And now you see yourself as a very skilled and talented architect that is a leader in his business and a business owner, right? So when you first opened this up, you said, I went to school to be an architect, but not business. And over this time of working together, I've seen you step into a whole different identity for yourself. And that was really important because that drives the decisions you make with where you invest your time. So if you want to just speak to any part of that, I think it would be really helpful for our listeners.
Yeah. So, when I first started out of college, I worked for the same architecture firm. It was a small firm. There were only 4 of us there for just over 10 years. And so the architect that I studied under for 10 years right after college was very good. He was very relaxed. He was very good at teaching and thinking outside the box. And I loved the way they ran the firm on that side. The business side of things, we'll just leave that to another conversation. But I see myself trying to emulate him in that regard of the teaching, kind of posing the questions to my team members of how do we solve this, rather than me just doing it. While that sometimes seems to be the quicker answer to, get them moving along, it doesn't help them the next time. And that's one of the biggest balances we've had to struggle with right now, is just with the pure workload, is we don't have as much time to do lengthy training sessions on certain things. And so what I'm trying to do is use more of the tools today. We're all virtual, employees, even though some of them are here in the Metroplex, but, utilizing tools like the video record within ClickUp or Loom for the short videos to send to them on, hey, I'm doing this. This is why this needs to be a certain way, or, here are your options. Really trying to push them to come to the decisions themselves, because I remember when I was in their position, I got shot down when I took stuff over to him. It's like, let's maybe look at this a different way, or no, that's not the way we need to do it. And while it hurts, it's kind of a little gut punch of like, oh man, I thought this was the right way. It helps you learn. And so that's the part of things that I'm trying to be better at, is saying, okay, let's find the solution, look at it from your perspective. And here's the tools, kind of like you do with me, is here's the tools, here's the standards that we have as a company, utilize those and come up with a solution to this client's problem.
Yeah. So your identity is you want to be a leader that helps build them up, train them, and also giving them the ability to make decisions and come with solutions so that isn't on your shoulders. And what I want everyone to hear is, while that is the identity and what he's stepping into, he didn't just snap his fingers and that's easy. No, what seems easier in the moment is to solve the problem, move on, do the work. And I think it's so important that they hear this, because that's where so many of us are at. And yet you're saying, okay, I may do that once or twice. I catch myself, because where I really want to be is empowering my team, supporting my team, and training my team.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I look at the way that I design relative to the architect I studied under, and there's definite things that I, are very clear that came from some of his thought processes and things like that. But then there's things that I've adapted. And that's what I want my team to do, is I want them to be able to take all these ideas and, be able to grow. Because as the business grows, I'm not going to be able to do 100% of every design. I can come up with the concepts, things like that, but it's going to be handed off earlier and earlier to the team members if we want it to continue to grow. So, trying to get those pieces in place now, and to also give them the skills that help remove some of the bottlenecks from the process, because right now there are only things that I can do that, they still struggle with. And, it's just something that a lot of people struggle with. And so trying to get them to where they can do those pieces to get them off of me, so that it's not sitting on me and holding up process, is, a very big goal I would say for 2022, is making sure that bottleneck piece goes away.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. So now we look at, you stepping into the leadership and the business owner role, as well as, the lead creative, is that drastically changes what your time investment is, or what your schedule looks like from even a year ago. And I share that because I believe we've had a lot of conversations about that, right? So what was normalized was so much of your day was design. And then at some point, it was more time needed to be spent in leadership, training, support, communicating. And then you're also the face for the clients, and you're also wearing the business hat. And so to really step into those roles, we had to pull back on you having so much design time and asking what you referred to earlier is, what are the most critical pieces of the design that come from you that allow you to tee off the team, so that Michael, you never come to me and say, I have no time to market my business. I have no time to, go on this next call for a consultation. That can't be true. So what do you feel about your schedule now? Like, and how it has changed so drastically from being almost complete design?
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very different. So, I would say my day now is probably either a 50-50 split, or, a 40-60, with design being the lesser of the, on the 40 side. And more of it is the helping with, pushing the other projects along, or, client meetings, frame walks. There's a lot of pieces in here. And as we are growing into more of the luxury home design market, those projects take more personalized time than, say, working with a production home builder. And so there's a lot more interaction with the clients on, larger scale homes than on some of the other stuff. And so doing more of the client interaction is been more of what I've done recently. And the planning and realizing that in our business, the marketing kind of falls together with the projects, because we're doing a very big project that's coming up in February of next year that has already spurred other work from it. So, our marketing is a little different than some other people's marketing. So really making sure that every client has a good experience is crucial for us, because when you get to the higher end market, they're wanting referrals and they call them. It's not just asking for a list and they don't do them. They actually call, talk to them about, what issues did you have, things like that. And one of the things that our team has really tried to work on and hold the line on is the timelines of delivery. That's a big deal, especially in today's market with materials the way they are. Every day or week of delay is money out of their pocket. And so trying to really keep those timelines and tighten those timelines up is a big deal and is very appealing to clients. So looking at that from the owner's standpoint has been something I wasn't really intimately involved with or really kind of examining. It was more of, okay, a project comes in, here's the list, you just work down the list, get them out. When they get out, they get out. But now trying to make sure that all the different clients' projects are moving, the timelines, what people are doing during the week, looking at how their time's allotted, where are the, the time bleeds that we need to stop, what tools can we get them, or training that will help them be as efficient as possible, because that in the end is going to take frustration off their part, because they're not going to be overwhelmed by this laundry list of plans that needs to be done. And it's going to help move the projects along.
Yeah. So just what I heard you say is that you are really working on that client experience. And then when you put your business hat on, you're like, okay, so if this is what is most important to our clients, and it's timeline and delivery, and that's how the business grows, which is based on referrals and references, is that now you go put your business hat on and ask the questions of, how do we hit these timelines internally? How do we work as efficiently? Who needs to be on my team? And then the two work together, right? So you have what it takes to deliver on that experience to the client based on asking a lot of really good questions, which is my favorite thing to do. I always say I'm like a grown-up toddler, and that's why I'm good at what I do, is I just like asking a lot of questions and challenging everything, kind of like a toddler does. Yeah, exactly. And so I give that little skill set to my clients is it's okay to ask. Like as long as you drop the story of I'm afraid about the answer, right? Because sometimes we don't ask the questions because we don't want the answer to say, oh, we need to revamp our process. No, we just want to ask the question because that seems like too much work. But you're willing to ask those questions because you're holding true what the big goal and vision is for your business and where it's going. Yeah.
Yeah. And I would say that's, that statement's the truest when it was about hiring the first person. That was a very big, I've never managed people before. I'd never had an employee. And so taking that first step and talking with my partners was, sometimes you have to do that in order for, the growth to be there. So, taking that first step, but now evaluating, okay, are we at the point that we need another full-time person, or is it just looking at, the multitude of contract services that are out there to help us get through and really see, do we need an additional person, or can the team absorb everything once we get over this, little hump? Recently, the little hump just keeps growing with more work, which is amazing.
Yeah, it's not a hump. This is your new reality.
Right. So, it's making sure that we have the people in place to get that, and people's jobs kind of evolve and they grow into the positions as the company grows as well, because you have to like what you're doing every day, or else, life's going to be horrible. So having something that we enjoy doing with people we enjoy doing, and, part of that challenge of us all being virtual is still trying to create that office camaraderie and atmosphere that we do, or that we do not get with being all virtual. So, having weekly update meetings with the team, even doing, we're trying to do every couple of weeks more of a social get on and just kind of chat like you would, the water cooler talk, so to speak, so we just to try and help keep that interaction, because I know that I miss some of that from being in an office, but I also love the flexibility of being at home. I can take my daughter to school, pick her up, and, still be able to do calls and, all that sort of thing. So, trying to get the best of both worlds and keep everybody motivated and moving, that it is one goal for the whole team. It's not just, hey, we're doing this just to plans out every day. So.
Right. Okay. This is excellent. So as we wrap up, the question that's coming to mind is, well, first we'll say you didn't do coaching before. You had no business coaching before. So at some point you took a flyer on me and you reached out and you're like, hey, what does private coaching look like? Was it what you expected?
Yes and no. It's a lot more, the whole straight talk, not to be too cliche, but like the straight talk, you're very like, you get in there and you ask, like you say, you ask the tough questions and things like that. It wasn't the professional coaching of things. I don't really know that I knew what to expect. I just knew that after listening to you for, a year and a half, doing the one mini training session, the rapport, back and forth, the comfort level, because that's huge, being able to talk about this, because you're literally seeing all aspects of our lives, businesses, things like that. I think it's better than what I had expected. And I feel it's been very interesting to see how I've been able to grow on the business side. And it is comparable to, what I had heard people before talking about, things that they held the line on for their personal and business life and, things like that. I still have a lot of work to do. But, it's been nice to see the growth across the year and a half.
Yeah.
Almost since we've been working together.
It is great to see it. And I would say that part of the coaching is that I hold the mirror up for you quite a bit. Because like you, many other business owners are off to the next thing. There's no pause to be like, okay, so where was I exactly a year ago, and what have I learned, and what feels like I have, learned a new skill set or pushed through a new challenge. And that is also part of coaching, is to say, hey, look what you've accomplished and take that into thinking even bigger. So I don't know if I've told you that, so I'll just tell everyone that's listening, is that that's also another little tool in my toolbox, is that as much straight talk as I give to a client, you too, Michael, like, okay, hold on. Did you say what? No, I'm just joking.
Right.
There's that. But then I'll also say, like, okay, so let's recap and look at what's possible, because it's time to now think even bigger. And when I'm looking at the business, I'm looking at where you're at, what your goals are, where you're at in relation to your goals. And then also challenging, okay, let's kick that goal down the road. Like, you're almost there. Like, it's like, let's just consider that almost done. I want you to think even bigger and more. And that's what's happened for you, especially this year when we started off, let's close this out full circle. In February, you saying, and I crushed my goals for the year. And that's when I realized I'm working with somebody that can move extremely fast, but didn't know he can move extremely fast. And so holding that mirror up for you to say, okay, it's going to feel scary. And we don't know how we're going to get there, but what does this look like? And let's navigate it through together.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Oh my gosh, Michael, this has been such a great, just insight. Thank you for being so open to sharing this with my audience, because also to what you nodded to is that coaching is a very, very personal experience. And it's personal in the fact that you have to be open enough for someone to come in and see the mess and not judge yourself through it, and just say, I'm actually here to get better. And it's okay if I show my mess, because we're doing it for the end purpose. And during that journey, it can feel really personal. And the fact that you came here and said, hey, here was my mess. Here's things I've worked on. I can't tell you how encouraging and empowering that will be for so many listening. So thank you, Michael.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's not, one of the biggest things was, overcoming, that it's not a weakness to ask for help. And, you like you said, open yourself up and great things can happen. So I thank you for that.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks for being here, Michael. I just want to give a shout out to Michael. I mean, thank you so much for being so transparent and coming on Productivity Straight Talk to share your story to inspire others. It has been such an amazing pleasure to work with you, but also watch you, over the year crush your goals. If you have listened to this conversation with Michael and you see yourself or your business with similar challenges, you may have been like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that I could ask for that type of support to keep me on track, to see the path when I feel like I can't see the path for myself. If you are saying to yourself that you would love the opportunity to have a strategic partner that can look at your business from the outside in, to bounce ideas off of and give you that strategic direction, as well as hold you accountable to showing up your best and learning the skill sets and gaps of things like delegating, leading your team, learning to hire, creating processes, systems, SOPs. If any of that is ringing true for you and your business, and you would like that type of support for yourself in 2022, then I invite you to schedule a discovery call for us to explore what working together might look like and if it's a fit for your business and where you want to go in 2022. I have a few spots available for early 2022, and I'll be honest with you, I am taking a wait list. And the only reason I'm sharing this with you is so that you don't say, yeah, I'll circle back next year. Because next year, we might not have the opportunity to work with each other until maybe the middle of 2022. So if you are already thinking about what type of support you need to crush your goals and go after your goals in the way that Michael did, then now is the time to book a discovery call so that we can talk about what that would look like working together. You can head on over to amberdelagarza.com/call. Again, that's amberdelagarza.com/call. And I sincerely look forward to the opportunity to chatting with you, learning about your business, learning about your goals and your challenges. And if I think I'm a fit and being able to support you with that, I'll let you know. And if I'm not, I'll let you know that too. So no obligation. Go ahead and head on over and schedule your discovery call today. So that's my straight talk for today. Until next time, have a productive week.